I really put this foundation to the test. I did much more than I normally would on a daily basis. Very active, very perspiration-y, sweaty, hot, you know? Since I've gotten just a little bit more tan, I thought what better foundation to buy and test out than the one that everyone's been talking about, the new e.l.f. Soft Glam Satin Foundation that sells for only $8. It's claimed to have a medium buildable coverage, it's long lasting, it has 1% hydrating hibiscus complex, it's non-comedogenic. So I thought I'd test it out for myself and give you guys a wear test. So I'm gonna put it on and go on about my day and come back at the end of my day to show you guys how well it's done, how long it's lasted. For reference, I have very dry skin. I have some discoloration going on, just like a little bit darker here, darker under eye circles. I have some acne scars and just like a few pimples around. And usually I'm in a very dry climate, but the rain has come and I hope that it's a monsoon season that will stick around. So it is very humid and hot here. So we'll really see how long this can last for in like humid, hot, sweaty weather. I got the shade 21 light neutral and I'm really hoping it's the right shade. And another thing that's really cool about e.l.f., if you didn't know, is that they are like climate conscious. They try to be sustainable and you can really tell in their packaging, like this thing feels really small, but it's still 1 ounce, just like all the other foundations are, which really shows like how much they've cut down on their packaging. I'm just gonna squeeze some on the back of my hand. All I have on my skin is a moisturizer and a sunscreen. I don't have any primer on. So I'm gonna go in with a damp sponge. And I'm gonna use a sponge on half my face and a brush on the other half just to show you what it looks like and the difference it makes. The color actually matches quite nice, I think. And you can still see like my veins on my face. But I did pick up very little product. I just feel like my skin's like pretty translucent, so you can see like all the veins and everything underneath. And of course, the sponge also like shears out the foundation quite a bit. I feel like it matches my forehead really nicely too, which definitely tans a lot faster than like my cheeks. It's super light. Like I don't feel like I'm wearing like a heavy foundation. Like I actually don't feel like I'm wearing anything at all. It's a very nice glow to my skin still. And I've been squeezing out like pea-sized amounts each time. And I'm like really putting it into the sponge before putting it on my face. So first impression, I really like how light it feels. It really doesn't feel like I'm wearing anything on my skin at all. It really does look like my skin still. It is like a medium coverage. I could still see my veins right here and I can still see a little bit of my freckles. Of course, not like these like actual dark ones because I don't think anything can cover that up. But even like my really faint freckles you can still see, which I don't mind. And I really like that glow it gives my skin still. And it definitely evens out the redness that I have going on my cheeks. Just tiny bit of redness, like tiny bit of redness. It kind of just like blurs out my skin, if you can see. And I think the color is quite nice too. So I am very impressed, but we'll see how it applies with a brush. So for this side of my face, I'm gonna go in with a rounded kabuki brush, very dense, from Morphe. And I'm going to squeeze some on the back of my hand again. And then I've heard it's called prime my brush with the product. Kind of just really push it in there. I really didn't use that much product at all. And again, it covered up my light redness really well. And I mean, it definitely looks like blurred. My skin looks like it has foundation on it, but it still looks like my skin. I still see a little bit of light freckling going on. But I think what makes it satin looking is that it's it's just blurred. It's very, like, my skin looks blurred, and it covered up this little pimple really nicely. The brush definitely offers more coverage than the sponge, obviously, but it just feels light. Like, it really doesn't feel like I have foundation on, which is really nice considering, like, when it's hot and humid, like, I don't want to feel like I have a mask on my face. And I'm very impressed with the color. I'm very impressed initially. So that is my base all completed, besides a little bit of product buildup around my nose, which I usually don't notice. Like, there's like product and you could see some creasing around my nose. I'm liking how it's sitting initially, but even around my corners of my mouth where it's a little drier, you can definitely see the dryness poking through. Like, it's almost like it's collecting on the drier spots. So it looks like I have a lot of product there. And the drier areas between my brow, you can definitely see it building up a little bit, only when you're really close to my face. It's just a little drier, there's a little more texture, and it's definitely kind of like clinging to those areas. I think most obvious is this side of my nose. This side you don't even really notice. It is currently 9:17 in the morning, and I'll try to wear this for as long as I can before bed and let you know how it goes. It is around noon. I ate breakfast. I went out to the garage where it was super hot, and I broke down a big box because I felt like, you know, even though my boyfriend usually does it, I thought I'd contribute and do it this time. I've wiped my mouth. My foundation has still stayed on. On the camera, it still looks really good. Very glowy. It hasn't settled any more into these lines, so I don't know if maybe I just never paid attention to my face this closely when wearing foundations usually to notice whether it does or does not settle into these lines, because when I do wear like foundations, they do settle into my fine lines more than if I was wearing like a tinted moisturizer or a skin tint, just because there's more coverage there. Although this textury area, my eyes just do get drawn to that area. I really wouldn't say it's like too noticeable to, like, you know, the everyday person. Like, if you saw me on the street, you wouldn't be like, oh my gosh, her foundation is like caking up in certain spots. I think just personal bias, like me looking at my skin very, very closely, is what I notice. But other than that, I still think the coverage is holding up. I was kind of sweating and it still is covering, you know, it's still a foundation. My blush is still very visible. The bronzer is still very visible. Nothing really shifted or anything like that. So still good. So it is 4:13 right now, and I just finished working out. It's been about 7 hours, not even, and this is not even as long as people's work days if you're like out working. This is as much sweat that I've been sweating, like glowing, some perspiration, but not like drenched sweating. But I do feel gross. I do want to start off with the positives that I've noticed so far. Like, the blush is still very visible. The contour bronzer is still pretty visible. I still have a decent amount of coverage. I did blow my nose once or twice today, and of course I've wiped my lips and wiped my mouth, blotted my chin, and like, this pimple is still concealed, this one not so much. But the rest of my face, it's still, you know, there's even coverage, especially on the camera. You can really still see the blush. Now, I do want to mention that, like, starting an hour ago, I noticed that, wow, you can't even see anymore because I'm sweating, so it like rehydrated whatever was going on. There was some dryness happening right here where the foundation was like clinging to like dry spots, dry patches that I didn't even realize I had. Like, they weren't obvious dry patches on my face. It wasn't like a post breakout, you know, like the skin flaking around the pimple. It looked like that with the foundation, but I didn't have any of that. So The foundation definitely clinged to those drier patches, and it was almost like circular rings around my upper lip, and it was like not cute. But now that I have perspired and, rehydrated my face, the foundation looks fine around there. There's no more dry patches. If I look very greasy and oily, it's because I am. It's so hot. I want to shower. It is 6:01, so I really put this foundation to the test. I did much more than I normally would on a daily basis. Very active, very perspiration-y, sweaty, hot, I just finished cooking dinner, so I was standing in front of the stove, stir frying, so, bound to be a little oily. But looking in the mirror, I wouldn't even say like, oh my gosh, I look oily and disgusting. I still look like pretty glowy. Again, I have very dry skin, so I really don't mind the glow. It's summer, it's natural to be like pretty glowy. Since I'm still sweating, that dryness around my upper lip didn't really come back. So if I could take a picture of it before I upload this video, like if I wear it and it happens again, I'll take a photo and I'll put it right here. Other than that, my skin tone's still very even. You can still see my blush very clearly. And I didn't set my foundation at all, besides like under the eyes. Like from an acceptable distance, I really don't see anything wrong. Like, my eyes are drawn to like this line right here, but I think that's just because it caught my attention early in the morning. I think, normally I really wouldn't have paid attention to it anyway. And I don't feel like I have a lot of foundation on my face. I think overall, it's a pretty acceptable foundation. And I'm not even going to talk about price because I don't agree with buying something just because it's affordable if it's not a good product. I think initially I was very surprised that it evened out my skin tone. It looked like skin and the color match was really good. So those were 3 pros for me right off the bat. I really liked that satin finish and I liked the coverage. And even after like doing so much and sweating so much and I blew my nose, there's no like obvious redness. Like there's a little bit, but the foundation didn't like completely come off my face. I liked it. I think I'm going to keep wearing it. As for the dry patches and maybe longevity, if I had put a primer on underneath, I think that would have pushed out the longevity of the foundation because it didn't cling to my dry patches immediately. It only clung after like 5 hours of wear. So within those like first 5 hours, it's still performing very well. Even now, like after 8 hours of wear and sweating, I still think this looks fine. Now, talking about the price, I think for an $8 foundation, this is phenomenal. All right, I'm gonna go eat dinner now, clean the kitchen, and shower and sleep. If you guys have tried this foundation, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, but thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I hope this was helpful to you, and I will see you next time. Bye.